right, good night, everyone. This is the end of summer send-off open mic from Prospectus, a literary journal. I am your host, Celia Alvarez, and we are basically here to read some poetry, and you can drink if you like, or you can do anything you want. But please keep it down to 5 minutes so that we can have as many readers as want to read. If we have some time left over at the end and you have more poetry that you would like to share, we can always go back and catch you again on the second round. I left the endpoint of the meeting open so that we can go as long as we want to or as short as we want to. I want everybody to get a chance to read. Why don't we do this? When I call your name, you can tell us where you're from, and if you have a connection to Prospectus, you can tell us what that is. Very quickly, we have issue 4 with this beautiful artwork that just came out in June. And we also still have copies of issue 3 for sale if you are interested. You can get those at our website. And then issue 5, of course, submissions end on August 31st. So you can still squeeze some in before the deadline if you want to be in issue 5. Okay, so let's start. We're starting with Elaine Reardon. Elaine, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I live in Western Massachusetts, surrounded by forest, which you can see outside. And I'm going to read this first poem, Cake, that my friend Buddy Dwyer made this cake on our last pre-COVID gathering on New Year's Day. So this is in the current issue. And then I have 2 more. So cake. Buddy made a pineapple cake. He cut me a slice and transported me back to childhood. I thought about Aunt Lil's cakes, my mom's, then mine. We baked cakes thoughtfully, considered how we'd frost them, cooked or buttercream. When a cake was special, we'd add walnuts. I listened to stories of how my Uncle Paul made my parents' wedding cake, how my parents saved me a slice in a shoebox in the attic bedroom closet. Mice ate it before I was born. I wonder if the mice dreamt of their future as I was supposed to. I was born careless and dreamed too much. Buddy's cake was like the best part of childhood. In deep winter, it tasted of summer. Pineapples, black walnuts, coconut, white frosting floated up over the top like clouds. He gave me a big slice to take home. The next poem I'm writing is called Morning Stories. It's a story of me and my grandma. When I woke in the mornings and begged for stories, Gram said, "Don't talk too much. Flies will get in your mouth." I still wanted to hear her stories. She'd say later after our work. She tied an apron around me, pulled a stool to the table, gave me parsley, cracked wheat, ground lamb, and my own basin of warm water to wet my hands. She said, "Knead so it's soft as a baby's bottom. Shape smooth round kufta." Then we poked our thumbs into the center to open the mouth, and we spooned in the stuffing. But I still wanted a story. Graham said, "My grandmother made food, and I carried pilaf, kufta, and yogurt to my father in the fields. Sometimes she rode the donkey, other times a horse." Graham said, "Never ride a horse or a camel," and we never did. Her house was different than ours. Animals lived downstairs, people up. I asked if we could have chickens too, here, now. She said, "No, not here." She said to keep my mouth closed, not talk so much, flies would get in. I watched her story unfold in my mind. Her final day home, when she and her sisters returned from school, found everybody dead, the locked church on fire, a quiet village now, except for soldiers that gathered up remaining people. They walked from their mountain village, part of the desert death marches, thirsty, eating grasses and weeds, anything they found. 2 sisters fell. 3 trudged on to Aleppo and onwards from there, surviving. The last poem is a short poem that I wrote in early April during COVID, during a deep isolation for me, crow. The crow calls after I've poured a second cup of coffee. The forest is quiet aside from Osbrook, sound splashing through an open window. Wood frogs left eggs here in the pond last night, then went quiet this morning. That crow was the only bird calling today. No one answered its cry. Have corvids socially isolated too? Spring is quieter this year, aside from those wood frogs who really know how to have a good time. Right before dusk, they begin to carouse. I almost hear Billy Strayhorn at the piano and see trays with appetizers and cocktails passed around the small vernal pool, where passion runs fast and loose, just past the garden. And thank you.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. So nice to hear you read.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. The next reader up is supposed to be Stacey Lawrence, but I don't think she's made it yet. Let me make sure. Oh yes, she is here. All right. Let me find her. Where are you, Stacey?
Here I am. I don't think you can see
There
me.
you are. Where have you been
couldn't
hiding?
unmute myself.
There
How are
we
you,
go.
Celia? Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you too. We are very excited that you are here. Okay, now everybody can see you.
Yeah.
Hi,
So,
everyone. Hello.
hello.
So-
No, I'm
Go
sorry. We were saying that to please introduce yourself a little bit before reading, but I think you want to do that anyway and tell us about Fall Risk.
So my name is Stacey Lawrence, and I met Celia through my book, which is coming out, should be out any day now, called Fall Risk. It's really sort of like a labor of love. It's sort of a love letter to my husband, who died very young, and then my bout with breast cancer. So there was Celia. They did this wonderful interview with me, and then there's going to be a review of the book in Prospectus in December. So I'm really, really excited. Yeah. So I'm going to read a few pieces. The first 2 pieces are from Fall Risk, and then I'm going to read 2 other pieces. Sorry. I did. I'm not prepared. My goodness. These are out of order. I can just pull it up on my computer, but I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Can I get you anything?
Okay, here it is.
Drives me crazy.
Sorry. I'm holding everyone up.
Yes,
Okay.
you are.
I know, I'm so sorry. Okay.
Oh, come on, sweetie.
You know when people are waiting for you and then you can't find it because people are waiting. That's why I can't. I'm
Do you
so
want us to
sorry.
skip
Okay.
you and return to you?
That would be great. I'm so sorry. And I'll get myself together.
Let's do that because I know exactly what you mean. When someone's waiting for me, I
I'm
just, it
so
could be right in
sorry.
front of me and I would
Thank
not see
you.
it. So
Thank
with
you so much.
absolutely no problem, we'll come right back to you after the next reader.
Sounds great.
With Ramon Jimenez, and I cannot find him either. Ramon, if you're here, would help if you just said something.
Hey, how's it going? I'm right here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I cannot see you.
Oh, I'm right here.
I need to be able to see. Oh, let me remove the spotlight from Stacey. There we go.
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right, so Ramon, tell us something about yourself and your wonderful poetry that we are so lucky to have in Prospectus.
All right, well, hello everyone. My name's Ramon Jimenez. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, but I now currently reside in Seattle, Washington. I'm a teacher, and I like to write poetry from time to time. Thank you, Celia, for the invitation. And I will be reading two of the poems that were just published in issue 4. So here we go. This is the first one, the La Jolla Villa Apartments. From its name, these apartments sound of luxury. Spanish frescoes and tiled roofs in memory of the Mediterranean. But the reality's stale white paint, chipping from the walls, releasing kisses of lead as pieces of litter guide every step. The terrible smells of moldy bread and uric acid kicking deep in the nostrils. In the laundry room, dust bunnies roam freely, under whistling washing machines that refuse to do their job. A dreadful dryer listens closely and joins in the rebellion by shrinking shirts, calzones, and jeans.
It's good.
The rear parking lot is a makeshift auto shop. Cars in all states are worked on. Some improved and made anew, others left into the apocalypse of abandonment, sinking slowly into the pavement as they struggle to stand on punched out tires. Around the neighborhood, many entrepreneurs make up the block. Chop shops and pot shops, corner stores stocked to the brim, Swisher Sweets, ice cold tall boys, blue fruit drinks, and some guy that hangs out between the hours of 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. Perhaps, in the eyes of others, these apartments are storage containers for the poverty of the laboring masses. But for me, it's the sound of the children talking to their parents in Spanish while waiting for the bus to arrive, or the uncles and aunts in community blaring out the gritos of Vicente to the sounds of thin, searing steaks on the grill. Thank you.
That's a good poem.
Thank you.
That is a good poem.
All righty. All right, I'm gonna read I don't think I have time to read all 3 that were published. I'll just read my next poem. This one I titled "My Tortured Tongue." We only speak in foreign sounds because our ancient ones were forgotten to conquistador gunpowder. Do you recall how we get in trouble for cracking jokes and talking too much? For speaking in Spanish and broken English, we were put in remedial classes while labeled everything imaginable from low performing to dumbass. In high school, we studied, read books, got lost in encyclopedias and dictionaries, but those only got us into more trouble, called a whitewashed pocho and a sellout because we use words with more syllables than fuck, shit, and bitch. In college, you and I thought we'd be safe, but our roommates called us ghetto and rude because we let them know that if they ever called us a beaner, a spick, a wetback, we would kick that ass so hard that each organ in their body would bleed eternally for an eternity. 4 years later, we find ourselves at work, finding others just like us, two-tongued, valued for our ability to go between worlds, but even at work, we were in danger. Remember how we got in trouble for speaking in Spanish to the homie Lalo? So I still recall how our white supervisor, Ashley, wrote us up, angry because she spent years studying our sounds, but lacked the ability to understand the speed of our lingo, forgetting that perhaps her nana came from Sicily or Rome long ago. I love us, the way we mix academic concepts with motherfucker, how we blend Mexican Spanish, rudimentary Portuguese, and LA slang. See, I smirk and smile when we make them super uncomfortable when we speak. The same discomfort they generate onto us every day. Thank you.
Excellent. I feel you, man. I really do. That was my favorite poem of the ones that we published from you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to Stacey. Maybe she's found her work. Stacey, have you found your poems that you wanted to read?
I'm all set. Okay, here we go. So this one is called Fall Risk, and that's my book is called Fall Risk. So it's the title poem. Well, I don't know if you've ever been in the hospital, and if you're sort of in risk of falling, they give you a yellow band. So that's the title. Fall Risk. Cart I wake, drunken state, hair not funk, like kid punk, reek of piss, band slaps wrist, doze on gurney, slow dark journey, have to sow, have to reap, no time to stop, no time to sleep. So I yank off these tethers like our mothers burned their bras and strut, green gowned, into terror. And this next one's also from the book. It's called Diaphanous. Ferns and spiders sunbathe in slim open window where light cuts in like lemon slices across her patchwork quilt. The daughters perch on a mustard draped bed, dandelion hair in denim flares. They sketch and sing where I tiptoe on occasion deep into their magical room like some character in a Roald Dahl book. My little Miss Honeys lay flat stacks of crisp paper and delicate knolls of flaxen glitter glide on a breeze like fairy dust. Sorry. And then my last two, so I'm working on a second book, and the second book is called Lucky Charms, and it's kind of about, well, it is about being grateful. The first book is, sort of dealing with what happened and coming to terms with it. And this is about being grateful for my life. And so this one is called Sunshine. We pour sunshine onto canvas, pale yellows and pale blues. Snowy broken wood, icicles drip, slip from branches. We abandon the cold for grind of greens, cold cups of tea. We mud and smudge the sailcloth. Your lips, you kiss me in deliciously dreary wind as night fades into an amber light, like trees that disappear beyond us down the Amalfi Coast on that bright morning, painted into memory. Thank you. I think that's, do I have time to read one little one?
Yes, please.
This is also from the newer book, and I'm a teacher. I teach poetry. I'm a high school teacher. So this is called Permanent Markers. I trace an old signature on my classroom wall, and for a moment thrust back to a time when my breasts are not silicone, you are not dead, and hark back, beautiful drool of permanent markers. Thank you very much for listening.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for that wonderful reading. You see,
Mhm.
you found everything. Excellent.
I know. All worked out okay.
So now we have Jill Michelle, who really liked issue 4, which I'm so glad for. Jill, will you tell us a little bit about yourself first?
Yes. Can you guys hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I am a teacher in Orlando. I've taught at Valencia College for the past 21 years. And I have been writing poems since my first one that I have was my ode to my favorite stuffed animal when I was 8 years old. So, but I just started trying to get published. And so this was an awesome project and I'm super grateful to be involved. I had a chance to thank you earlier, Celia, but I saw that Mr. Stern was here, who's one of the co-founders, and I wanted to just shout out thank you as well for this awesome project, a beautiful book. Just really appreciate it. I'm going to read.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to read the poems that are in the book. 2 of them are from a collection that I'm writing right now called Certain Songs, Poems for Scratch Souls, and it's an acrostic collection. And so I wanted to make kind of like if ekphrastics respond to paintings. I was playing with the idea of how to respond to songs and a form for that. And so the connecting threads between them are that if you look at the poem, you'll see that it spells out the song title as an acrostic. And then I take a piece of one of the lyrics for the song title. But then it jumps to wherever the song takes me. And usually I go a lot of places and a lot of different drafts and a lot of stories. And then see what that song poem wants to be. And so I'll start there. This first one is the one that's on page 10 in issue 4. It's a song by Rage Against the Machine, which reminded me of the election we were going through. This is called The Camera's Eyes on Choice Disguised. Goodbye to politics of change, reform uniting people. Now the news just bleeds emergencies, a list of tragedies, recorded clips of grief, a sick smorgasbord replayed across all stations for the board informed, that plugged-in block both parties need. Lest power slip the candidates unseen, let lobbies chip unwanted planks before, announcing heartfelt platforms. Sleight of hand repaid, campaign ads made to polarize, alarm the base, spin, agitate, the plan devised to split, divide on color lines, incite the chaos, fears that can be fanned, outwit the voting public one more time. So that is the first of the pieces. So that was me just venting. The next one is actually a story that's a true story, and the next 2 poems to give a trigger warning for anyone who's experienced rape. That is a topic that's going to come up here. So here we go. This one is on page 28 in the book, and it is based on the No Doubt song Spiderwebs. It's called Planning My Escape. Self-defense class starts, and we Girl Scouts, a pack of preteens, are taught to walk with purpose, better yet in pairs, better still with keys laced between fisted fingers. The instructor, covered in black pads, reminds us our job is to survive, not be nice, as he demonstrates how we should follow through on our punches, aim for his brown eyes, unless he tries to grab us from behind. Then we lift our knees to sashed chests, rear back before leveling our heels at his kneecaps. We practice, and he warns what not to wear. Fabrics that constrict, short skirts, tight bodices, hair in ponytails too easily grabbed. He tells us to ignore our first instinct taught on TV, to aim for his balls where the rapist will expect attack. Instead, use your weight, go slack, then hit hard somewhere he's unprepared, like I will be when it's my boyfriend assaulting me. Okay, and then the next poem is actually something that I'm just so grateful is out there in the world, because a lot of times people don't realize that the PTSD that happens when you go through an experience like this can come up in ways that are unexpected. And for me, that became an instance where my awesome honey that I'm with right now thought it was really fun to like tickle me. But sometimes I found that that would like put me back in a place that I didn't want to go. And so that is the story behind Not Again, which I want to say is on page 30 and 31, if you'd like to see it on the page. Not again. In this poem, he stops when you say no. So you never sit in this therapist's office some 20 years later, asking Brittany how and if to mention to a second man, full of good intentions, full of honor, who would stop if you said no to sex, but doesn't stop when you say so. Slingshot the word no a stone between breathless giggles under the assault of his tickling fingers. He thinks the laughter means you're happy, thinks you're playing the same game, doesn't understand when you say no over and over, that you mean it the more it is ignored, that you left the room, the year, your body again, because apparently your body isn't yours, just something you drag between men, something you're powerless to protect again. And it doesn't matter that it's his hands, that you're fully dressed. It's you being touched how, where, when you don't want to be again. And it doesn't matter that the last thing you want on some random Tuesday night is to be back on that other floor in 1991 again. His continued press against you, against your words, powerless as pebbles in a girl's hands, thrown over and over against this Goliath that never falls, just tightens his grip on your wrist until he's done. On all of this, the new one shouldn't have to deal with, you say to the therapist, for picking you, the fruit that looked fine on the outside, but with this pit of stone, this bruised core, where the one who raped you can't reach anymore, because in this poem, he stops when you say no. Thank you.
So powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's truly, truly amazing. And good for you. Good for you for turning it into poetry. Okay, then the next reader that we have, I don't think is here. And that is Andre F. Peltier. Andre, are you here? If you are, it would help if you spoke up so I could find you. No, I don't think he is here. Okay, we can always return to him later if he joins us. I also don't see MVL Narasamamba. MVL, are you with us? I guess not. Fran Fernandez Arce. Yes, you are. I saw you a minute ago. There you are. Let's see, so you'll be next, and then if the others come back or join us, then we will return to them. Hi, Fran, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. Well, my name is Fran. I am currently coming from Santiago, Chile, and I have 3 poems to share here, all around the idea of summer, because it's the end of summer, so I thought it would be nice to get some of that. So the first one is called Summer in January. It was published by Floresta magazine in the UK, and you can find it online. It's basically about the idea of feeling, crossing hemispheres from north to south and the seasons and homesickness and all that. So it goes. I jump on planes with the memories of summer in January grazing my heels, careening on runways with palms for wings, balancing arms on top of cockpits. I hop down to feel the interruption of those balmy winds. The year begins with no rains, no glimmerings of cold June hail. Autumn follows winter when you weave a string from pole to pole and glide down the continent to your southern home. The year will end with January heat waves, April snows. So the second piece I wanted to share, if I could just find it. It's also called Summer. And it's more or less written last year during lockdown, and the idea of that my first summer in the UK, rather how static it had to be because of lockdown and everything. And it's simply called Summer. Oh, we do love this moment of static transit, this wanderlust existence of keeping a safe routine, of keeping safe, waiting for the voices calling at the end. We are now making plans to go to the seaside. We are now making plans to go to the seaside. Summer is much colder this time around. And my final one, which could be taken a bit of a companion to the first one I read, is called Storms in August. And it's about missing the British summer while being back in Chile for the moment and having to deal with winter and rains and all of that. So it goes. Language rages with the unexpectedness of storms in August. Heat waves thaw in January accumulations of hard-hitting snow. Language turns hail into puddles and puddles of sentences drowning, discolored without sense. You were the first to say it, and my tongue sank under the rising tidal waves of this love. You were the first to invent a new form of syntax, touch, heat, skin oils. Our language is spoken with two tongues made one with the clouds gathering across the Atlantic, the currents making oceans out of lost morphemes and mispronounced word endings. Language begins with January snowstorms, August sunstrokes. You were the first, and I was the second, to rage with the static shocks of unexpected summer storms. So that was it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. So evocative. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. Okay, I think that we have another no-show on the list. I don't see, and forgive me for pronouncing this badly, I don't see Shukwat Hussein. Are you here? Nope. I don't think so. I also don't see, and again, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing this name, Boniface Onuzaluki Egielo. Are you here? No, I didn't think so. Carl Sharworth, are you here? I saw Carl earlier. No. See, I knew there was a disconnect between people who were here and people who were on my list. Okay, definitely Michelle Meekle is here. So it's your turn, Michelle. Let me see if I can find you to put a spotlight on you.
Good evening. It's very nice to meet you, Celia, and it's very nice to see all of you. My name is Michelle Meekle, and I am the interim director of the bioethics program at Penn State and also a professor here. I, by advocation, am a poet. So I have 3 pieces that have been published in various places, welcoming or focusing on fall. The first one is Autumn Triptych. Standing talls shed gold and garnet, while the day moon's ghost haunts the heavens. Hungry ancestors await invitation by fete and feast as veils thin. Jack-o'-lanterns glare like porch step sentries readied for the witching hour. The next one is Mabon's Melodies. Standing talls raise their finest hues skyward. and let them spiral gracefully to earth like Inanna's 7 veils. It's how we wolf women know to follow Eshbergal's sacred call into blue-black depths in search of epic ballads that carry our wild hearts to their true home. Do you hear it too? Whispered by ghosts of our untamed grandmothers who sung their soul songs into dark, lonely woods, knowing we would follow. And lastly, is a poem called It Was Written. It was written. It blew pungent, the kind of squall that caused a shiver to rise and compelled your great aunt to set down her teacup with a slow shake of the head, knowing in octogenarian bones, nothing good could come of this change in the weather. It birthed dust devils that played tag among mossy tombstones in the long neglected cemetery at the end of the weedy lane. Entombed and restless, ancestors mourned their kith's failure to pay proper homage. Making its way down the main drag of town and through the very best neighborhoods, it rattled iron gates, clapboard shutters, weather vanes spun wildly in gusts devoid of identifiable direction, while wild dogs whined and barked at an invisible intruder. The poet laid down the mic to let the words linger just a bit longer, allowing this dark tempest to ravage the world. Thank you all.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Next up, we have Natalie Marino. So let me spotlight you. Tell us a little bit about yourself first, please.
Hey, I'm Natalie. It's nice to meet you, Celia. I live in Thousand Oaks, California. I've been writing poetry for a little over 2 years now. I'm going to read 2 poems from my, I had a micro chapbook published earlier this year. Here's the first one, Skylight. My mother dies. Her house becomes a church. Her old clothes prayer shawls. She stays inside Bible pages, making them dark yellow. I tell my children that I will go too, leaving like an open window. I tell my children it's all right to catch skylight in my urn without looking for shadows. I tell my children my dreams. I see them planting tulips in the tangerine spring, breathing in the openness of petals as they grow as tall as wild rivers under the bright permanence of blue sky. I tell my children to let my ghost go in the sunlight behind the cypress tree. The second poem is titled, I Wanted My Mother to Say to Me as She Lay Dying, that in the beginning I was a little bird, but I was not hers, that I should listen to her anyway, that I should not wait to breathe in daffodils, that I should listen to the sky, for it tells me to slip off my shame at the seashore, that I do not have to fear the darkening evening, that its clouds and carnation shapes smile with me while my feet leave patterns on the sand, that the pepper night asks me to open windows, that I will want to remember to tell my daughters it is all right to let the sad moonlight fly with them and paint the trees blue. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you very much. Oh, breathing daffodils, I love that.
Daffodils are one of my favorite flowers.
They're beautiful.
They are.
Okay, let me pronounce this correctly, and not like I call my daughter. Lucia Owen is next. So if you will please, I don't know if you want to start your video or if you just
myself and start the video. Here she is. There I am.
No, you're gone.
There I am. Okay, great. Okay. Hi, everybody. Whoops. I'm Lucia Owen. I live in Stoneham, Maine, population 236. I moved to Maine 51 years ago to teach English, and I've lived here ever since. I started writing poetry seriously about 3 years ago, and I discovered that I'm writing about getting old, which is what I'm doing at the moment. So I have 3 poems, 2 of which are submitted to the next issue of Prospectus, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed. The first one is called In the Mood, and I hope all of you youngsters know the Glenn Miller tune. In the Mood. On that late cranky winter afternoon, you sat downstairs with a cup of coffee on the tray of your walker, while I rummaged upstairs looking for my glasses. That afternoon, a blank book for both of us. I came back downstairs with dregs of cold tea in a mug I'd left. Nothing more important, no secret message in the tea leaves, no hint of how to connect again in our own waning light. But when I took off my glasses and slid over the arm of your chair into your lap, it was as if a plug, electric and 3-pronged, got jammed into some hidden power source, and I expected us to leap up out of the prison of our bodies with our terrible knees and dance. Thank you. And the second one, the next one is called Homecoming. She laid the ambush in his own hall, the wrathful queen with no mercy for her husband, the child murderer, adulterer, gone for 10 years, expecting all to be as he left it, Agamemnon, king in golden Mycenae. Homer says she felled him with an axe like an ox. His blood soaked the floor and slaked her vengeance and her anger. I too have wanted to murder my husband. So old and wed so long, we have come home to sameness, and I smolder, trapped by your care, your crime only your age, as you sleep in your chair. Hand closed over the TV remote so tight the channels change, and your clench holds close as ninja fryers and shark vacs flick across the screen. And when I cannot wrest free my choice from yours, I seethe. And some days, when I get to the end of endless care and walk behind your chair and see how pink your scalp shows under thin white hair, I spare you the axe again, and always. Thank you. And the last one, it's a little more personal. Elegy for my short-term memory. It abandons me at intersections I've always known, the light at the hardware store beside the school, at the car wash, opposite the Congo church, at the top of my own stairs, and what I'm even doing standing there. As if the antique movie reel projecting the visual directions in my old brain sticks, then stutters only empty frames that send me, when I'm turning, into a blank where my destination ought to be. I always know what's happening tomorrow, or next week, or month, or even year. I curse the gift of long-term future memory that does not help me now and here. When the projection reel at last clicks forward and where I'm going reappears, the clutch of fear releases. I make the turn and recognize and remember why I've driven here. But what will happen if the reel runs out or breaks? Then, lost in traffic, I have no hope. For who will notice a white-haired woman panicked, trying to remember home? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I too have spared my husband the axe many times.
I think we've all
line.
I think we all do.
That's a wonderful, wonderful line. You need to check your submittable. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Jim Ross. And Jim, I don't see your video, but I hope that you will let us see you.
I said yes to it. Oh, wait a minute. All right, hold on. I just realized. Does it work now?
Yes, you are on.
Okay, thank you. This is a wonderful group. This is a great experience. I too have X marks. Big Daddy, one Friday in July, I knocked off early because I was seeing someone in the West Village. As a census taker in Harlem, I knew where to buy the best bean pie, ginger beer, smothered chicken, pork ribs, what have you. I also knew all the sidewalk vendors. That Friday, I was drawn to one's tie-dyed dashiki and her fermenting bananas odor. What did make someone smile? I asked myself out loud. I decided on watermelon, but not just any old watermelon. I knew somebody's gonna buy Big Daddy, but never thought it might be you, said the vendor, shooting a left-eyed wink. You think you're man enough to tackle Big Daddy? How much? For you, only $3. A bargain at any price, I said. Big Daddy was mine. Here you go, handing her 3 crisp ones. Thanks, man. Have fun with Big Daddy. Tell me about it tomorrow. I hoisted Big Daddy, the first heavyweight contender disguised as a watermelon, onto my right shoulder, switched to my left, then back to my right. When we reached the 125th Street subway station, I curled my arms to cradle Big Daddy like a newborn and took the steps gently. Pocket fishing for a token, I rested Big Daddy on the turnstile. He lost his balance, then slipped. With visions of Big Daddy face planting on the concrete, I bent my legs and caught him against the turnstile, then returned him to the safety of my cradling arms. A 6-inch crack had formed lengthwise. The train arrived and we made ourselves comfy. Big Daddy rested securely on my lap. 2 schoolgirls in uniforms walked over. I've never seen such a big watermelon, said one, patting Big Daddy. Did it crack because it got so big? The second asked. No, I said, it cracked because it slipped. You ever see men juggle watermelons? You got more watermelons? Asked the first. Mommy yelled, what'd I tell you? Get back over here this minute. I soon realized the crack had widened and something cool dripped down my leg. The drip eventually turned into a steady stream. I thought about crossing my legs, but concluded that would make no difference. I looked down and saw a puddle about 12 inches wide on the floor beneath my seat. I thought about switching seats. It was then I noticed anybody near us was already switching. Anybody who boarded the train moved in our direction, quickly redirected. It's not me, I said to the homeless man sitting across the aisle from me. That's what I always tell them, he intoned. Don't let public opinion get you down. As we approached our stop, I pulled out my handkerchief, did my best to clean Big Daddy up. He was still sticky wet, so I wrapped his underside with the Daily News. By the time the train stopped at 14th Street, Big Daddy and I had planned how to make our break. I cradled him again in my curled arms. No tokens required to depart, but the rapidly turning one-directional exit gates make no provision for extra-large watermelons. I contemplated asking to use the handicapped gate. I envisioned security demanding papers proving Big Daddy was handicapped, as if that weren't blatantly obvious. Instead, I slowed the exit gate's crushing whirl, escaped injury-free, and began ascending the steps. People coming down, having no notion of the mortification we had suffered, smiled and rudely asked if I wanted to share. With only a block left between us and our destination, I felt lighter, as if a weight had lifted. A homeless woman lurched at me, then retreated, saying, no, it's okay, not today, thanks. I reached my destination and nudged the outer door open with my left knee. I climbed 4 steps gingerly. I asked someone who was leaving to press the button for 1D. He hesitated. Oh, I've been running, sweating. With a look of complete certainty he was doing the wrong thing, he pressed the button. Eileen answered. I identified myself and she rang me in. I leaned into the next door and beeline to my right. What do you bring me, Jimmy? Eileen asked, her arms held aloft to show surprise. That's Big Daddy. We've had a long trip. Can we sit? Make yourself comfortable anywhere. I positioned Big Daddy on the kitchen table. And you brought me the Daily News. How did you know I didn't buy one today? It was Big Daddy's idea. Thank you, Big Daddy, said Eileen, caressing Big Daddy. Can I get you two anything? A scale for the weigh-in. You want to weigh yourself? No, Big Daddy. Big Daddy weighed in at 42 pounds. Hey, what happened to you? You want to take those off? Ask Big Daddy. Yeah. Eileen lifted Big Daddy and held him close. They danced to Santana's Black Magic Woman as he juiced down her shirt and into her pants. You cracked me up, Eileen said, as they fell together on her waterbed, where I joined them. They're going to say we turned this neighborhood seedy. The end.
That was wonderful. That was absolutely wonderful. Thank you. Let's see. Up next, we have Cheryl Caesar. Are you ready?
Just unmute myself. Here, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Hi, I'm Cheryl Caesar. I live in Lansing, Michigan. Those are Michigan dunes behind me. And that's a watercolor that I did to illustrate the poem I'm going to read, which is for the lost town of Singapore, Michigan. The anthology it's in has come out. I'm going to pick it up this weekend. It's an anthology of Lansing and Chicago poets, and this is kind of a Lansing versus Chicago poem. So, an elegy for Singapore. A city built on sand and metaphors, as Petersburg was raised upon a swamp. Your founding czar came also from the east. O'Shea Wilder tried to live his name. Reaching peninsula, he called it island, a hub to rival Asian Singapore. And more important, that big-shouldered bird, the windy city built on mud, Chi-Town. You had your little 50 years of fame. At first, you trapped small mammals for their fur. And then you turned to trees, an endless fun. Your wildcat bank made its own currency. When bank inspectors came, you got them drunk. Brash as Tom Sawyer of St. Petersburg, Missouri, selling whitewash privileges. And still folks came. They called you Ellis Island of the Great Lakes. And then Chicago won, a brilliant sacrifice. By catching fire, she took your forests, leaving you the dunes. You sold off every tree, thought they'd come back, or didn't think at all, as people don't. Within 10 years, the sands had covered up the last remaining building, though they say one foolish Ozymandias stayed on, acceding to by climbing through the window while he could. The literary ones called you Pompeii, though you had suffered no volcanic flow but human greed. But who are we to speak? As we burn off the surface of our world, as ice caps melt and ocean waters rise far past our second stories, and we stand on rooftops and pretend it isn't real. Thank you. If you might be interested in this anthology, it'll be available on Amazon soon. It's called Words Across the Water, or I can send you a signed copy for $10. Proceeds go to the Lansing Poetry Club, which does a lot of good work for the Refugee Development Center and a shelter called Loaves and Fishes. Time for one more, I think.
Yes, yes, please.
This is Manuela the Tortoise. I read about her in the National Geographic. She was found in, I want to say Peru, somewhere in South America. She lived in a junk room for 35 years, living off termites and drops of condensation. And I think about her a lot as we are shut down and hoping to be released. So I have a little poem for her. She makes me think of some famous captives that I've read about, and also Oliver Sacks' encephalitis patients who were revived in his book, Awakenings. Manuela the Tortoise, found after 30 years alone in a junk room. What does a tortoise think? What does she feel? She lives long and moves slow, heavy and protected. 30 years may pass like a sluggish dream. We may rail against her long incarceration, like Ricky Jackson's, deserving of reparations, but wonder, as a pet, was she not always captive? Or we may cheer her escape, like Billy Hayes fleeing on the Midnight Express from his 30-year sentence, although it seemed she never even scratched the door. Or pity her stolen life, like J.C. Dugard's. But as Dugard found out, little by little, the life you live becomes the real one. Around her, termites flashed, emissaries of light. They live only a year or two. They feed on the trees whose prana we block and hide in darkened rooms. But nature always finds her way in. In 30 years of encephalitic lethargy, Miss R, a patient of Oliver Sacks, thought of nothing. It's dead easy once you know how. Turning the corners of a cerebral quadrangle, silently repeating 7 notes of a Verdi aria, drawing mental maps of maps of maps. My posture leads to itself, she said. Perhaps Manuela too curled endlessly inward, a shell in a shell. Perhaps she too repeated for 30 years in Tortoise, I am what I am, what I am, what I am. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's absolutely wonderful. Thank you. Oh my, such a surprise. So wonderful. There are 2 people left on the list who wanted to read, but I don't think either of them is here. One is J.H. Marco. J.H., if you are here, now is the time. Nope. And the other one is Brian, and I don't have his last name. Steve's friend Brian. Is he here? So why don't we open it up to anyone who would like to read. Just unmute yourself and let us know, and we can hear you read. No one? We're all happy. We read everything that we wanted.
My daughter's a poet and she's going to come over and read.
Oh my gosh, that would be wonderful. Please.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi,
Name?
my name's Meghan Markham. I'd love to read something since I'm here and y'all have time. Thanks so much for having me. So I have a lot of chronic illness. And so a lot of my poetry is about me being sick. In like a fun, cool way though, right? This is a poem called Misdiagnosis. Peel back the skin through silly string streamers of blood and muscle. There is a mystery around an ache. Movie Foley snap, from my roots radiating through the system, an avalanche of awaking joints and how they fit together. Casually cacophonous cracks medical machines won't know how to map. Somehow sore and swollen, but supporting me through long labors not called out of tight to chronic clarity. I clasp praying for palpable prognosis, arthritic aches at least give me mental breaks, while shrugs only slouch shoulders. Diagnosis in death's grasp, sleep off sharp stabs, open mouth to over-the-counter cure-all, to silent suffer standing through Saturday's shift today. Thanks.
Wow.
I can read one more that's maybe a little bit happier if you've got the time.
Sure.
Let me see. A hard shift. I wrote at a writing workshop that we did with the Virginia Writers Group that I can't remember the name of right now.
The Eastern Shore Writers Group.
Right, with the Eastern Shores Writers Group. They had something about like pandemic babies as the prompt. And so I wrote a poem about the Mars rover that recently launched. It's called It's a Rover. Percy was named pre-pandemic. He was loved by hundreds before that, cooked up for years in the heads and hearts of America and astro enthusiasts. A scheduled birth, written in day planners, put down on paper, and not subject to the mess of human inaccuracy. Our labor was to pay off July 30th, 2020, no matter what. 28,000 children didn't know what the world would look like deep in shutdown summer. All they thought of was the cool contest and the possibility of winning at this point in life. Exciting. Perseverance was needed by those 28,000, by their parents and guardians, by their siblings and friends, by every person in the world at one time or another. Yet only one child knew, somehow, and fate or God or dumb luck named that rover, and in July 2020, we shot our Perseverance into space. And that's it. Thank you so much. I'm glad y'all had time.
I'm so glad we did too. You know, in issue 4, our youngest contributor is in 8th grade. So there is no, you don't need to be 18 or 21 or any specific age to contribute to the magazine. So
yeah,
I toss that out there.
Yeah, I'm working on my submission right now. I look like I'm a bubblegum high schooler, but I promise I'm 25. So even if there was an age limit, I'd be here. I was just a little late on the last one, but thanks for publishing my mom.
You're
really
very welcome. Okay, everyone. Last call for readers. Is there anyone?
I'll read it.
You want to give us another one? Sure, let me spotlight you.
Do you guys not know?
Yes? Can't tell what you're saying. Yes? Okay.
Yes,
All
go
right.
ahead.
Okay, the poem is called Death Comes a Stranger. And this is actually, I don't write poetry except when I wake up in the morning, having dreamed one, then I write a poem, but that hardly ever happens. Rumor has it the killer's on the loose. There's more than one, I know. Her eyes say, let's linger a little longer. He makes an offer you can't refuse, a sure thing. I watched her take a life, him too. I try to keep count, not of the lives ended, but of the ways they snuff life out, with the flick of a wrist, a flash of a smile. I see her coming in all the forms she takes. I know better than to trust her. I know her style. I know how she reels you in. When she says, I'm short of cash, can you lend me a few? Without breaking eye contact, I say, here's my wallet, take what you need. My friends say, you loaned your wallet to a serial killer. When they find your DNA, they'll think you're the one. I say, and what penalty would they inflict as capital punishment? Would they require death to live for eternity? I run into a swarm of men in Roman colors. Is one of you a prosecutor? I say, I wish to prosecute death. As if at lunch, candles lit, Death and I look into each other. She pays for lunch with my credit card and hands back the wallet. Death comes a stranger. We leave as friends. Fitting into the death theme, which has come up a few times tonight.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so I think, let me check one more time in our gallery view.
You asked me to come. Did you want to hear my poems? This is Michelle, another Michelle.
Oh, yes, please. I had not seen you.
I've been here forever. Good poems, everybody. So how much time do you have? Do you want me to read just one?
No, I think we can give you 5 minutes. Do you know that your video is off?
Yeah, I have kids in sports and I'm not where there's enough light for a video anyway.
Okay, so we could just listen to you. That's all right.
Yeah, sorry about that. All right. I have many, many, many collections, none of which are published. So I'll read from one of those. This is called Turning Tables, this collection. And this, I'll start with a third poem. Fake formica on the tables. Red faux leather cushions cracked in aging padded booths. Narrow oasis, flowing coffee, bright lights or dim. You take your pick. Seasoned waitress, worn out shoes. Uniform fit several years ago. Eyes kind and wary, roving all places, always, all at once. Roadside diners feed many wants. Younger waitress, shoes worn down from life already. Uniform still almost new. Pen tucked behind ear, pad in pocket, ready for patrons' menu requests. Top buttons fastened all the way up. So many people think a waitress brings more than food or beverages, especially when day to night shifts get so long. Even the parking lot lights are flickering with weariness. The customers she knows should know better. Some of the regulars try anyway, nothing better to do. Some customers breeze through, never to return again, and they try too. Why not? Nothing to lose. The waitress, though, has much to lose. She has places she'd rather be, although she has not found them yet. But someday she might get there if she works hard enough. All right, and I'll skip up to number 7. Children up and all excited, hair nighttime tousled, cheeks all pink. New baby in the house won't sleep. So mama nurses under the blanket in a corner where no eyes can peep. Daddy's dozing, works double shifts. Mama watchful all the time. Baby in stroller and car seat there between them in the booth. Tummy full now, baby snoozing, so mama's eyes close, resting too. The waitress brings some extra syrup with the children's pancakes, hot and fresh, and a box of crayons so they can color. She sees they've eaten all of Daddy's French fries while he sleeps, and she brings some more, whispers, "Don't eat these now," behind her work-worn hands. And let's see. This one is the 12th. It's willing to bend but not to break, behind the veil which separates the hidden from the darkness. Yes, it may be safer to swim far beneath the surface of realization, below the sting where life tears its life from its mooring. Far easier to fly above the hunger, the heat, the hate, and hope. While the world moves along its daily paths, unaware and indifferent, but no less consistent for all that, the waitress finds a way through the impassable, past the impossible, finds a way to the no longer imperceptible landscape between vulnerability and strength. Order up, the cookie cries. And she shrugs and gets the plates.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. That was
Nice
very moving. Okay, so let's see. Have we missed anyone one more time? Did anybody come in last minute that we missed before? No, I think that's it. Okay, everyone, I want to just thank you from the bottom of my heart for having come tonight. You have read some of the most beautiful poetry I have ever heard. I am so moved by all of you and so proud that you decided to come to our little reading. So please check our social media for a link to the video. This has been recorded. So we are at Prospectus Literary on Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest, although we're not using Pinterest that much, and Prospectus 2012 on Twitter. So any one of those is going to have the link to this recording if you want to keep it for yourselves. I wish you all the best of luck with your writing. I am beyond impressed and so lucky that some of you have made it into the pages of Prospectus already. And for those of you who will. So that's pretty much all I can say. If you want to keep up with us, you can also check our website, prospectusliterary.com, and that our reading period ends on the 31st, which I believe is Tuesday. So there's still time to squeeze in some submissions if you want to do so. I would love to hear from all of you, those of you that have not submitted yet, okay? Or tell your friends also. Thank you once again very much for coming tonight.
Thank you, Celia.
Goodbye to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Celia, and thank everybody who showed up today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Good night.
Have a good
Good night.
weekend.